We live in a world that constantly demands your voice, your opinion, your immediate reaction. From the relentless churn of social media feeds, which encourage instant judgment and performative transparency, to demanding conversations in your professional and personal life, the pressure to speak, to justify, to explain yourself is relentless and pervasive. You are told, often implicitly but sometimes explicitly, that to be seen, you must be loud. To be relevant, you must constantly broadcast your thoughts and feelings. To be respected, you must assert your presence through an unending stream of pronouncements. But what if this prevailing wisdom, deeply ingrained in our modern psyche, is not just flawed, but fundamentally disempowering, leading us down a path of constant anxiety and exhaustion? What if the very act of constantly speaking, of tirelessly trying to manage perceptions, of striving to be understood by everyone, is precisely what holds you back from genuine strength, from true inner peace, and from commanding authentic respect? Imagine for a moment a radically different path, one where you speak significantly less, observe profoundly more, and act with quiet, deliberate intention. A path where you allow others to make their own assumptions about you, even to underestimate your capabilities or character, because you understand with deep conviction that their perceptions, often fleeting and ill-informed, have no bearing whatsoever on your actual reality, your true worth, or your ultimate trajectory. This isn't about being passive, retreating from the world in timidity, or adopting a posture of arrogance. On the contrary, it's about a profound and strategic shift in power dynamics, both external and, more importantly, internal. It's about recognizing that the greatest, most enduring strength often lies not in what you loudly declare, but in what you quietly and diligently build, day by day, moment by moment. It lies not in the immediate, often fleeting gratification of being understood or applauded, but in the long-term, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing your own worth, from understanding your principles, and from acting in alignment with them, regardless of the shifting tides of external validation or criticism. The Stoics understood this truth profoundly. They recognized that an immense portion of our suffering, our emotional turmoil, and our mental unrest comes directly from our frantic, often desperate, attempts to control things entirely outside our power. And chief among these external things are the opinions, judgments, and perceptions of others. They taught us that true mastery, the only kind of mastery that truly matters and brings lasting peace, begins and ends with mastering the self, not the superficial self that seeks applause and admiration, but the deeper, more authentic self that stands firm and unyielding in its own well-reasoned principles and virtues. This internal fortress, this inner citadel, as Marcus Aurelius called it, is built not with external showmanship, but with quiet discipline and self-possession. Today, we will embark on an illuminating exploration of this path of deliberate silence, of strategic underestimation, and uncover precisely how it can forge an unshakable inner citadel within you, making you impervious to the daily assaults on your peace of mind. We will delve into the hidden psychological traps that keep most people constantly seeking validation, expose the common communication mistakes that inadvertently deplete your personal power, and reveal ancient Stoic habits and contemporary psychological insights that will transform not only your interactions with the world, but, more crucially, your inner world. This journey will challenge what you think you know about influence, respect, and the very nature of true, resilient strength. The hidden addiction to external validation. Most people, without even realizing it, are unknowingly trapped in a hidden, insidious cycle, a subtle addiction that relentlessly siphons their energy, dictates their emotional state, and compromises their inner peace, the desperate, almost unconscious need for immediate external validation. We are conditioned from the earliest stages of our lives, by parents, teachers, peers, and society at large, to seek approval, praise, and understanding from others. This isn't merely about a superficial ego boost. It's a deeply ingrained social mechanism that makes us believe our worth, our competence, our very identity is somehow contingent upon how others perceive us, right here, right now, in every interaction. We internalize the belief that we are only as good as the last compliment we received, or as flawed as the last criticism aimed our way. Consider for a moment how often you find yourself explaining your choices, clarifying your intentions, or vigorously defending your actions even when no direct challenge has been explicitly issued. Observe this impulse. This isn't always born of genuine necessity. Often, it's a preemptive strike against imagined misunderstanding, a frantic, almost involuntary attempt to control the narrative of your own life in the minds of others. We feel a profound, almost visceral discomfort when we sense we might be misjudged, misinterpreted, or perhaps worst of all in our validation-driven society, utterly ignored. This discomfort, this deep-seated fear of social disapproval or irrelevance, drives us to speak, to fill the silence, to ensure our stories correctly received and affirmed. It pushes us to perform an endless act of self-justification. But here's the critical, transformative insight that the Stoics illuminated millennia ago. This constant need for external approval, for others to get you immediately, makes you incredibly vulnerable, a hostage to their opinions. Every single time you feel compelled to explain, to justify, or to defend, you implicitly acknowledge that your worth, your reasoning, or your character is up for public debate and judgment. You effectively hand over a precious piece of your inner peace, your emotional equilibrium, to the whims and fluctuating perceptions of others' opinions, which, as the Stoics unfailingly remind us, are entirely outside your control and inherently unreliable. Marcus Aurelius, in his profoundly personal meditations, repeatedly urged himself, and by extension us, to cultivate a profound indifference to what others might think or say. He understood through harsh personal experience as an emperor constantly under public scrutiny that this relentless external focus creates a gaping crack in one's inner citadel, leaving one exposed and defenseless to every passing breeze of gossip, ill-informed criticism, or fleeting misunderstanding. The sheer energy expended in trying to constantly manage others' perceptions, to engineer their good opinion, is colossal. A truly staggering drain of mental and emotional resources that could otherwise be directed towards purposeful action, genuine self-improvement, or cultivating a quiet, unshakable contentment. This energy expenditure becomes a self-defeating loop, where the more you seek external validation, the more energy you drain, making you more dependent on that external source. This addiction to external validation is particularly hidden because it feels so natural, so entirely reasonable to us. Surely I must clarify myself, re-rationalize, or they will misunderstand, and that misunderstanding will somehow diminish me or hinder my goals. But the true, often unseen price of this constant clarification is often a subtle but profound surrender of inner sovereignty, a yielding of your personal authority. You become, in essence, a puppet to others' potential judgments, constantly reacting to perceived slights or misinterpretations, instead of simply being, acting with integrity, and letting your actions speak for themselves. To truly break free from this debilitating cycle, you must first acknowledge this hidden, powerful drive within you, confront its seductive pull, and understand its true cost. Only then can you begin the deep work of cultivating a deeper, more resilient source of self-worth that is intrinsically impervious to the shifting, often chaotic, tides of external opinion. This is the first, and perhaps most crucial, step towards genuine self-mastery. Most people spend their lives reacting. Few learn the power of remaining calm, silent, and in control. If something in today's message resonated deeply with you, it's because a stronger version of yourself is trying to emerge. Thousands have already discovered the principles inside the silent power, and many say they wish they had learned them years earlier, plus 5 exclusive bonuses. The silent power reveals timeless Stoic lessons for mastering emotions, building unshakable confidence, commanding respect without speaking, and developing the mental strength that cannot be broken by criticism, rejection, or adversity. The question is simple: will you continue reacting to life, or start mastering it? Get instant access through the first pinned comment and begin your journey toward true self-mastery today. The trap of over-explanation and oversharing. Building directly upon the hidden addiction to validation, many people unconsciously fall into an extremely common yet profoundly self-defeating mistake that keeps them perpetually stuck: the trap of over-explanation and oversharing. This isn't merely about the desire for external validation. It's about the action of attempting to secure it through an excessive and often unnecessary torrent of words. We operate under the flawed assumption that by providing more details, more context, more justifications, we will somehow achieve greater understanding, earn more respect, or miraculously avoid criticism. In stark reality, this approach often achieves precisely the opposite effect, undermining our credibility and exhausting our audience. When you consistently over-explain, you don't clarify, you dilute your message. A concise, well-considered statement delivered with quiet conviction carries far more weight, impact, and authority than a rambling, defensive monologue. Every additional word you utter beyond what is truly necessary to clearly convey your point is an open invitation for misinterpretation, an opportunity for doubt to creep in, or for your personal power to subtly diminish. You inadvertently hand over extra ammunition to anyone who might be inclined to question you, critique you, or simply dismiss you. You give them more points to pick apart, more angles from which to attack, more trivial details to distract from your core message. The sheer volume can signal uncertainty, as if you're trying too hard to convince, rather than simply stating a truth. Consider how often you shared a nascent idea, a future plan, or even a personal struggle with others, only to find their unsolicited opinions, their doubts, or even their thinly veiled envy draining your enthusiasm and eroding your resolve. Seneca, the Roman Stoic philosopher, wisely cautioned against revealing one's inner workings and plans indiscriminately, especially when they are still forming. He understood that revealing your plans prematurely can invite negative energy, premature judgment, and expose you to the whims of others' skepticism or discouragement before your resolve is fully solidified. The strength of an intention, the nascent energy of a new project, can be significantly undermined by the premature exposure to external scrutiny and doubt. It's like planting a seed and immediately digging it up to show everyone. It loses its vital energy before it has a chance to root and grow. Moreover, oversharing, particularly about your vulnerabilities, struggles, or personal life, makes you profoundly exposed and vulnerable in ways that are often detrimental to your long-term strength. When you feel compelled to justify every decision, every nuance of your being, you inadvertently signal to the world that your decisions require external approval to be valid, that your inner compass is unreliable, or that your character is not self-evident. You effectively give away your personal authority piece by painful piece. Conversely, the individual who calmly states their position, who makes a decision and acts upon it without feeling the desperate need to elaborate extensively or seek reassurance, often commands far more respect. This is precisely because they project an air of self-assurance, an unshakable inner conviction, and a genuine autonomy. They are not asking for permission or validation, they are simply stating their truth and then moving forward. This common mistake, this trap of over-explanation, keeps countless people stuck in a perpetual cycle of seeking external validation and then depleting their own internal resources in the frenetic pursuit of it. They become dependent on others' understanding, on their approval, rather than cultivating their own profound self-reliance and inner certainty. To truly break free and move forward with genuine power and purpose, you must recognize that your strength does not lie in the volume of your explanations, but in the quiet, unyielding strength of your convictions and the deliberate, measured nature of your actions. Learning to withhold unnecessary words, to allow some things to remain unsaid, is not a sign of arrogance or secrecy. It is an act of profound self-preservation, a conscious reclamation of your personal power, and a demonstration of genuine, mature self-possession. The discipline of inner soliloquy. A powerful Stoic habit. While most people either react impulsively to external stimuli or over-explain themselves in a bid for validation, the Stoics cultivated a profoundly powerful, yet rarely practiced, habit, the discipline of inner soliloquy. This is far more than mere silence. It is an active, structured, and deeply reflective internal dialogue where you consciously become your own most trusted counsel, your own most rigorous examiner, and your own most patient teacher. Instead of voicing every fleeting thought, every nascent concern, or every ambitious plan externally, you bring it inward, process it thoroughly through the lens of your principles, refine it, and solidify it before any external expression or action is even contemplated. Imagine your mind not as an open forum susceptible to every passing comment, but as a private, fortified council chamber. Before any public declaration, any significant engagement, or any critical decision, you hold a deliberate session within yourself. You weigh arguments meticulously, you examine your premises for logical flaws, you anticipate potential objections from different angles, and you rigorously test the solidity and ethical soundness of your own conclusions. This is the essence of deep self-reflection and disciplined introspection, a daily ritual for Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, whose famous meditations are, in their very essence, a prolonged, intimate, inner soliloquy, a continuous dialogue with himself, utterly not intended for public consumption or external approval. He wrote not to convince others, but to fortify his own principles, to clarify his own thoughts, and to guide his own actions with unswerving integrity. This habit is immensely powerful because it cultivates profound self-trust and robust intellectual independence. When you consistently engage in this internal processing, away from the immediate pressures and judgments of others, you develop an unparalleled clarity of thought and an unshakable strength of resolve. You gradually stop needing to think out loud with others, a common modern habit which often leads to scattered ideas, tentative conclusions, and a subtle but pervasive external dependence. Instead, your outward statements, when they finally emerge, become concise, impactful, and rooted in a deep, privately forged conviction. You speak from a place of having already thoroughly considered the matter, having already consulted your inner wisdom, rather than seeking external input to hastily form or validate your opinion. The discipline of inner soliloquy also serves as the ultimate preventative measure against impulsive, regrettable reactions. When faced with a challenging situation, a sudden provocation, or a critical remark, the trained Stoic does not immediately lash out, defend themselves reflexively, or allow their emotions to take control. Instead, they consciously pause. They internalize the information, process it calmly through their established principles and virtues, and then, only then, do they choose their response deliberately, thoughtfully, and with full intention if a response is even deemed necessary. This crucial pause, this moment of internal deliberation, is precisely where wisdom is forged, where character is refined, and where genuine emotional mastery is demonstrably exercised. It is the sacred space between stimulus and response, a space Epictetus emphasized as the true locus of our freedom and our power. In a world clamoring for instant reactions, incessant communication, and constant outward expression, cultivating this inner sanctuary of thought, this private forum of self-deliberation, is a radical act of self-ownership. It allows you to observe the world without immediately participating in its noise, to listen deeply to others without simultaneously formulating your rebuttal, and to build your wisdom quietly, steadily, away from the intrusive clamor and scrutiny of others. It means that when you do finally choose to speak, your words carry the gravitas of careful consideration, the weight of thoughtful conviction, and the impact of genuine insight, making them far more potent and inherently respected than the continuous, often empty, chatter of those who have not learned to first speak meaningfully to themselves. This habit is not merely a tool, it is the fundamental training ground for true mental resilience and the cornerstone of genuine, unassailable self-mastery. The psychological mechanism, projection bias, and the power of the unknown. To truly grasp the profound and strategic advantage embedded within deliberate silence, we must delve into a core psychological mechanism that profoundly shapes human interaction: projection bias. When you consciously choose silence, when you deliberately refrain from filling every conversational void or immediately correcting every misperception others might hold, human psychology dictates that others will inevitably, almost instinctively, project their own biases, their own assumptions, their own experiences, and often their own insecurities onto you. They will attempt to fill the unknown, the void created by your quietude, with their own interpretations, perceptions, and narratives, often revealing far more about them, their worldview, their expectations, their internal state, than about you. This mechanism is absolutely crucial to understand because it highlights the profound, often underestimated, power of the unknown. In a society that relentlessly champions transparency, instant communication, and immediate self-disclosure, silence can be deeply disorienting, even unnerving, to those accustomed to constant chatter. When you don't reveal all your cards, when you don't broadcast your every thought, feeling, or intention, you naturally become an enigma to others. People will speculate, they will wonder, they will construct their own stories about you. And in that very wonder, In that space of the unknown lies a distinct, potent advantage for you, the silent observer and actor. Initially, this might very well lead to underestimation. Others might perceive your quietness as shyness, a lack of confidence, a dearth of ideas, or even outright weakness. They might assume you have nothing meaningful to contribute, that you are easily dismissed, or that you pose no threat to their own positions or narratives. This is precisely where the strategic power of silence and the leveraged effect of projection bias comes into play. When others underestimate you, they subtly, or sometimes overtly, lower their guard. They become less guarded in their own expressions, less cautious in their actions. They reveal more of themselves, their true intentions, their vulnerabilities, and their strategies because they believe you pose no significant threat, that you are not a competitor to be watched closely. From this advantageous position, you gain a clearer, unencumbered vantage point to observe, to listen deeply, and to gather invaluable intelligence about their true motivations and capabilities without being subjected to the same intense scrutiny in return. The Stoics understood the paramount importance of maintaining one's inner fortress, rendering it impervious to the transient and often ill-informed opinions of the external world. They recognized that to care deeply and constantly about others' judgments is to grant them an enormous, undue power over your inner peace, your emotional stability, and your psychological autonomy. By strategically embracing silence, you are not being indifferent to others as human beings, but profoundly indifferent to their uninformed or prejudicial opinions about you. You consciously allow their projections to serve your larger purpose, to create the necessary mental and emotional space for your own focused action, your own quiet cultivation of virtue and skill, free from the draining distractions of constantly managing superficial perceptions. This isn't a call to be deceptive, manipulative, or disingenuous. Rather, it is an invitation to be discerning, to be strategically wise. It's about recognizing that not every thought you have needs to be voiced, not every opinion about you needs to be corrected, and not every assumption others make about you requires an immediate or even eventual response. Your silence allows you to operate more effectively below the radar, to diligently build your strength, to hone your skills, and to execute your plans with less interference, less friction, and less premature scrutiny. While others are busy forming superficial judgments based on limited information, based on their own internal projections, you are busy becoming the person they truly underestimate, until the moment of your deliberate, impactful, and often surprising revelation. The true power lies in your knowing, with absolute certainty, that their underestimation is a temporary illusion, one that you can strategically maintain until the opportune moment for your fully formed wisdom and actions to speak for themselves. Most people spend their lives reacting. Few learn the power of remaining calm, silent, and in control. If something in today's message resonated deeply with you, it's because a stronger version of yourself is trying to emerge. Thousands have already discovered the principles inside the silent power, and many say they wish they had learned them years earlier. Plus, 5 exclusive bonuses. The silent power reveals timeless Stoic lessons for mastering emotions, building unshakable confidence, commanding respect without speaking, and developing the mental strength that cannot be broken by criticism, rejection, or adversity. The question is simple: will you continue reacting to life? Or start mastering it, get instant access through the first pinned comment, and begin your journey toward true self-mastery today. Zeno and the Quiet Pursuit of Foundation. To concretely illustrate the profound, lasting impact of this quiet, foundational approach, the power of deliberate, internal cultivation that can lead to being initially underestimated but ultimately profoundly influential. Let us turn to the very founder of Stoicism himself, Zeno of Citium. Zeno's journey to establishing one of the most enduring and influential philosophies in Western history was not marked by a sudden, public declaration of genius, a clamor for immediate attention, or a desperate need for instant recognition. Instead, it was a process steeped in quiet study, deep introspection, rigorous self-examination, and a deliberate withdrawal from superficial engagement. A powerful, historical example of being initially underestimated, or at the very least, operating far outside the conventional expectations of immediate fame and intellectual celebrity in his bustling, competitive Athenian intellectual landscape. The legend of Zeno's philosophical awakening begins with a dramatic turn of fate. After a devastating shipwreck left him utterly distraught and stripped of his livelihood near Athens, he found himself wandering through the city, seeking not material gain but profound direction and meaning for his life. He stumbled upon a bookseller's stall and began reading the works of Xenophon, particularly those dialogues chronicling Socrates. Profoundly moved by Socrates' wisdom, his ethical fortitude, and his relentless pursuit of truth, Zeno, without hesitation, asked the bookseller where men like Socrates could still be found in Athens. Coincidentally, Crates of Thebes, a prominent Cynic philosopher known for his unconventional wisdom and austere lifestyle, was passing by at that very moment. The bookseller simply pointed to Crates, and Zeno, seizing the opportunity with an open mind, immediately became Crates' student. What followed was not an immediate launch into his own philosophical school, but years of intense, dedicated, and often quiet study. Zeno immersed himself in various philosophical traditions prevalent in Athens, not only Cynicism under Crates, but also Platonism, Megarian thought, and other schools. He absorbed, critically examined, and synthesized these diverse intellectual currents within him. He was a meticulous student, a diligent learner, a keen observer of human nature and philosophical argument for a significant period. During this crucial time, he wasn't leading public debates in the agora. He wasn't establishing a new school with fanfare. Instead, he was quietly building his internal philosophical framework, consolidating his understanding, patiently allowing his unique synthesis of ethical principles and logical rigor to emerge organically and mature within him. This entire period was one of quiet accumulation, of deep intellectual solitude, where Zeno was arguably underestimated by the bustling, highly visible intellectual landscape of Athens. He wasn't a celebrity philosopher with throngs of followers or public debates challenging the status quo. He was a serious, earnest student, perhaps seen by many as just another earnest seeker among the many who flocked to Athens for wisdom. But it was precisely within that unassuming, less visible role that he was meticulously laying the profound intellectual and ethical groundwork for a system of thought that would not only be named after his teaching place, but would profoundly impact Western civilization for centuries to come. He was building something durable, something lasting, something true, rather than something immediately flashy. It was only after years of this quiet, foundational work, after his philosophy had thoroughly matured and solidified within him, after he had become completely convinced of its coherence and efficacy for living a virtuous life, that he began to teach. He started delivering his lectures in the Stoa Poikile, the painted stoa or painted porch, in the Athenian agora, a public but relatively humble location. This very location gave rise to the name Stoicism. Zeno's path is a powerful testament to the idea that true, enduring power, profound influence, and lasting impact often spring not from immediate recognition or self-promotion, but from a deliberate, extended period of internal cultivation. It teaches us that sometimes the greatest contribution begins with the quietest, most unassuming preparation, allowing one to be less visible, less vocal, and perhaps even underestimated, while building an unshakable inner core of wisdom and character. Zeno understood intrinsically that a profound and robust philosophy, one that could withstand the tests of time and offer genuine guidance for human flourishing, needed a solid, quiet foundation, not fleeting, superficial recognition. His example encourages us to trust the process of internal development, allowing our fully formed wisdom and our deliberate actions to speak for themselves when the time is truly right. The 24-hour, no justification challenge. Now, to bring these timeless Stoic principles into your immediate, tangible experience, I invite you to undertake a powerful and transformative practical exercise, the 24-hour, no justification challenge. This is an immediate, hands-on application designed to consciously break the deeply ingrained habit of over-explanation and to reconnect you with your innate sense of self-worth and inner authority. It's an exercise in psychological self-reclamation. For the entirety of the next 24 hours, commit resolutely to not explaining, justifying, defending, or clarifying yourself unless it is absolutely necessary for a critical task. For explicit clarity in a situation where misunderstanding would cause genuine harm, or where it's an ethical requirement. To provide a transparent account, this challenge demands heightened self-awareness and intentionality. This means 1. Observe the impulse, don't act on it. Throughout your day, become a keen observer of your own mind. Pay close attention to the specific moments when you feel that almost irresistible urge to explain yourself. A colleague questions your approach to a project. A friend misunderstands your intention behind a comment. Someone makes a casual, perhaps incorrect assumption about your plans or character. Instead of immediately jumping in to set the record straight, to clarify, or to defend, simply observe that powerful impulse. Notice the physical sensations of discomfort, the mental agitation, the strong desire to control their perception of you. Allow yourself to feel it, acknowledge it, and then consciously let it pass without acting on it. 2. Practice concise responses. Let them stand. When you are asked a direct question that requires an answer, provide a direct, concise response without any unnecessary elaboration or added detail. If you've made a decision, simply state the decision with clarity and conviction. If you hold an opinion, express it plainly and clearly, and then consciously allow it to stand on its own. Resist the potent urge to add caveats, offer lengthy backstories, provide extensive rationalizations, or seek reassurance through additional words. Your clear statement is sufficient. 3. Embrace silence in the face of criticism or misunderstanding. This is perhaps the most challenging and most empowering aspect. If you receive criticism, a negative comment, or sense that you are being misunderstood, simply listen. You do not need to agree with the criticism, nor do you need to immediately leap to your own defense. A simple, calm, "Thank you for your feedback," or even just a serene nod, followed by a deliberate silence, can be incredibly powerful. Allow their words to hang in the air without you feeling compelled to fill the void, to argue, or to justify yourself. This gives you time to process, and it denies others the satisfaction of engaging you in a defensive battle. 4. Eliminate preemptive explanations. Consciously stop offering explanations or justifications before they are explicitly requested, or even if they are requested, critically consider if they are truly necessary. If you arrive a few minutes late to an appointment, a sincere "my apologies for the delay" is often perfectly sufficient. You do not need to launch into a detailed recounting of the traffic conditions, the unexpected phone call, or the sudden distraction that caused your tardiness. Let your actions and your brief apology speak for themselves. 5. Rechannel energy into active, deep listening. Rechannel the considerable mental and emotional energy you would typically spend on explaining yourself into the profound practice of active, empathetic listening. When others speak, truly hear them. Listen to understand, not to formulate your next self-defense, not to await your turn to justify. This shift in focus is not only liberating for you, but also makes you a more attentive and respected conversational partner. The overarching goal of this 24-hour challenge is not to cultivate rudeness, aloofness, or uncommunicativeness. It is, instead, to consciously decouple your actions and your words from the desperate, often subconscious, need for external approval. It's about building a profound internal comfort with the temporary discomfort of being potentially misunderstood or even underestimated. You will likely feel a strong internal pull to explain yourself. A deep-seated feeling that if you don't, you will somehow lose face, suffer negative consequences, or compromise your standing. This challenge is meticulously designed to show you through direct experience that, more often than not, the exact opposite is true. By consciously withholding unnecessary words, by letting things simply be, you reclaim vast stores of your mental energy, strengthen your internal locus of control, and allow others the space to form their own conclusions. And, to your profound surprise, you will often find that your deliberate silence, far from diminishing you, actually elevates your presence, amplifies your perceived confidence, and commands a deeper, more genuine, and far more enduring respect than any lengthy justification ever could. Take this challenge with seriousness and commitment, and experience the immediate, transformative shift in your personal power and inner freedom, from seeking validation to unshakable self-sufficiency. We have journeyed together through the hidden pitfalls of the addiction to external validation, meticulously exposed the self-defeating pattern of over-explanation, embraced the quiet, fortifying power of inner soliloquy, understood the strategic advantage embedded in projection bias, and witnessed the profound foundational resolve exemplified by Zeno of Citium. Now, all these intricate threads converge to reveal the ultimate, transformative outcome of this Stoic path. The profound and lasting shift from a self constantly seeking external validation to one rooted in unshakable self-sufficiency and an indomitable inner strength. This transformation isn't merely about adopting a new communication tactic or holding your tongue more often. It's about a profound, fundamental identity shift. You evolve from someone constantly trying to prove their worth to others, perpetually reacting to external stimuli, to someone whose worth is so profoundly self-evident to themselves that the fleeting opinions, judgments, and perceptions of others become truly indifferent. You become the person who is not merely silent, but powerful in their silence. You no longer harbor a paralyzing fear of being underestimated. Instead, you learn to leverage it as a strategic cloak, moving with intention, precision, and significant impact while others are busy with their superficial judgments and miscalculations. This final awakening is the profound realization that true power is not an external attainment, but an internal state of being. It is cultivated meticulously in the quiet, reflective moments of self-examination and through an unwavering, consistent adherence to your core principles and virtues. It's the calm resilience you build when you choose not to react impulsively to every provocation or perceived slight, the deep wisdom you gather when others are speaking over each other, and the unyielding strength you forge within when others are busy judging your exterior. The world around you may continue to be loud, chaotic, and demanding of your attention, but your inner world, your cherished inner citadel, becomes a sanctuary of profound peace, crystalline clarity, and unwavering purpose. You become the undisputed master of your inner world, completely unperturbed by the fleeting judgments, the transient projections, and the superficial expectations of others. This is not about becoming aloof, emotionally detached, or disconnected from humanity. On the contrary, it's about becoming deeply anchored in your own truth, your own virtue, and your own chosen path. You engage with the world on your own terms, choosing your words deliberately, acting with quiet, unwavering conviction, and allowing your character, your actions, and your tangible results to speak far louder and with infinitely more authority than any defensive explanation or desperate justification ever could. The path of deliberate silence, of strategically allowing yourself to be underestimated, is the ancient yet ever-relevant path of the Stoic master. It liberates you completely from the tyranny of external opinion, frees you from the exhausting pursuit of approval, and empowers you to build a life of profound integrity, deep purpose, and lasting impact, entirely free from the constant, draining need for external validation. This self-mastery, this inner sovereignty, is your unshakable foundation, a strength that cannot be broken by criticism, shattered by rejection, or diminished by adversity, because it flows from an inexhaustible, self-replenishing wellspring within you. Embrace this profound transformation and step fully into the silent, formidable power that has always resided, waiting patiently within you. What is one specific area in your life where you can practice intentional silence or refrain from unnecessary justification this week? Share your thoughts and commitments in the comments below. If this message resonated deeply with you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Stoic wisdom to guide your journey toward greater self-mastery and inner peace. Most people spend their lives reacting. Few learn the power of remaining calm, silent, and in control. If something in today's message resonated deeply with you, it's because a stronger version of yourself is trying to emerge. Thousands have already discovered the principles inside the silent power, and many say they wish they had learned them years earlier, plus 5 exclusive bonuses. The silent power reveals timeless Stoic lessons for mastering emotions, building unshakable confidence, commanding respect without speaking, and developing the mental strength that cannot be broken by criticism, rejection, or adversity. The question is simple: will you continue reacting to life, or start mastering it? Get instant access through the first pinned comment and begin your journey toward true self-mastery today.